Maria, let's start first. Money is great. People love money. It is better to have more than less when you are a presidential campaign. But how does the Biden campaign take that money and actually use it to its advantage?
Yeah, Jessica, the Biden campaign has raised a crazy, insane amount of money, and they're going to put that to work to keep a crazy, insane man from entering the White House again. And what they're doing with that money is that they are investing it into all of the communities that make up the Democratic coalition, and they're going to invest it in the independents. And frankly, those people, those Republicans who have said during the primaries and during the Republican primaries that they do not want to vote for Donald Trump. And so the message for President Biden is, give me another 4 years to finish the job of continuing to grow this record-breaking economy, continue to create jobs for everyone, continue to lower prices for everyone, and continue to solve the problems that are most in front of the American electorate versus Donald Trump, who faces 91 charges, 4 indictments. He's got to close the money gap because you know what, Jessica? He owes hundreds of millions of dollars in legal fees and in cash payouts because the courts have already deemed him a fraudster and a sex offender. And I think that contrast at the end of the day is going to win the day for President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris.
And Alice, I'd like to get your reaction to that as well, and also just the fact that we are going to see Melania Trump at tonight's fundraiser. We haven't seen much of her since they left the White House, and certainly not on the campaign trail this go-round. So I'd also like to know what you think about her appearing as well.
Yeah, I think it's great. Anytime you can have a spouse there to sort of showcase the bigger picture is a good thing. And look, she's getting out there now because the general election is now off to the races. And the fundraiser tonight is going to be high dollar. Trump had a phone call with some of his supporters last night and said he thinks they will actually raise $50 million. And what we're seeing with these high dollar donors, the Mercers, the Hams, and Steve Wynn, these are people that have donated to other candidates during the primary process, whether it's Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis, and now they are coalescing. This high dollar unity was bound to happen as soon as the Republicans got their nominee. Now they realize it's Donald Trump, and they are coalescing behind him because they understand their finances, as well as most Americans, were much better under the Trump administration than under the Biden administration. And big money aside, New York Times reporting last week, and the campaign is reporting that Donald Trump actually has more small dollar donors, under $200, than Joe Biden. That is going a long way because, as you said, Jessica, money is big, but votes are bigger. And when you have small dollar donors, that is more voters. And look, President Biden needs all of the money that he's raising because he is trying to go out there and court voters that he should already have. He's spending millions upon millions trying to shore up Hispanics and voters of color that he's losing to Donald Trump because they're frustrated with the economic situation, they're frustrated with the crisis at the border, and they're frustrated with the foreign policy of this administration. So Biden is going to need all the money he's raising because he is behind in 6 out of 7 of the battleground states, and that's going to take a lot of money to dig out of that hole.
Yeah, and I'm being told, Alice, to your point, the campaign's saying it's $50 million so far. What we know for sure is that tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars will go into this election. I also want to get you all's take on what Karl Rove said. He, of course, former advisor to President George W. Bush. He urged President Biden to go hard on Trump's remarks regarding the January 6th rioters. We'll listen to it, and then we'll come back.
If they were smart, they'd take the January 6th and go hard at it. And they would say, he wants to pardon these people who attacked our Capitol. Every one of those sons of who did that, we ought to find them, try them, and send them to jail. And one of the critical mistakes made in this campaign is that Donald Trump has now said, I'm going to pardon those people because they're hostages. No, they're not. They're thugs.
Maria, let's get your take first. Should the Biden campaign be leaning into this message? Mostly, I'm also curious, too, about your take on what kind of voter this really motivates. Because it would seem to me a Democratic voter this is absolutely going to motivate. But is it the best message for maybe an independent voter that they're trying to capture?
I do think it's a great message for an independent voter, Jessica, because what we have seen from independent voters and, frankly, Republicans who understand what a massive existential threat Donald Trump is, not just to the country, but to our democracy, to our republic, to our democratic institutions. This kind of message reminds them of that threat, reminds them that Donald Trump wants to go in there, not just to stay out of the jail, but if he gets into the White House again, the first time around, Jessica, was a trial run. He has already said that he wants to be a dictator on day one. He has already said that he will use the Justice Department and all of the institutions to go after his enemies. He has already said all of the horrible things that he wants to institute if he gets another chance. And so we should take him at his word. And the fact that he believes, Donald Trump believes, that these January 6th criminals who attacked our Capitol, attacked our democracy, tried to hang Mike Pence, killed some law enforcement officers, that he believes they're hostages, yes, that is a very powerful message for the Biden administration and the Biden campaign to continue to communicate, and they will.
Okay, and before, we're running a little bit out of time, but I do just want to touch on this because we had these earthquakes, the earthquake on Friday in New York and the aftershocks. And the disgraced former New York mayor and Trump ally Rudy Giuliani used his radio show to make the argument that the earthquake happened specifically in what he called, quote, communist states. And then the Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who warned of Jewish space lasers, tweeted that the earthquake and Monday's solar eclipse are a sign from God that Americans need to repent. Alice, what is this messaging that we're hearing from them? Because it sounds very conspiracy theory-esque to me.
Look, the two of them are on an island with regard to this, and Rudy Giuliani has gone from America's mayor to an asinine mayor, and that is foolish for him to say that. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, every time she makes comments like this, is for two reasons. It's one, to get attention, and two, to fundraise, and she's certainly fundraising off of it. Look, this was an act of God. It was an act of nature, this earthquake, and it's nothing more than that. And anyone who wants to make a conspiracy theory out of it is absolutely wrong.
Yeah, yeah, and it also points to just, Alice, like where we are with politics, right? That this is we're talking about these things and not policy.
That would be welcome to Donald Trump's America, Jessica.
All right, Maria Cardona and Alice Stewart, we have to leave it there, but always great to have you both here. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jessica.
Joining me now is Semaphore politics reporter Shelby Talcott. Shelby, good morning. Great to see you. Let's talk a little bit about this fundraiser on Saturday night. We know that the former president wanted to post this massive total, but he also, made a series of controversial remarks at this fundraiser that the New York Times is reporting here. What does it tell you that they were able to post this kind of a number, and whether it means that they are where they need to be?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to remember is in the primary, there were a lot of top donors who were really wary about backing Trump. Some of them stayed out of the primary, others decided to back some of his opponents, and now we're seeing this sort of coalescement around Donald Trump. And so that indicates to me that at the end of the day, these wealthy donors are starting to get behind Donald Trump, even if they have reservations. And so that's important because it does indicate that he is able to get a lot of money. It's not going to be as much as Joe Biden. His campaign aides have acknowledged that. But they're certainly in a better position than they were a few months ago when they were really struggling with fundraising.
Yeah, the consolidation, an absolutely critical part of this. I mean, Trump posting biggest night in fundraising of all time. We'll double the Biden number of last week. We want to make America great again, of course, DJT. Here's how the Biden campaign spokesman Michael Tyler responded to this fundraiser. Watch.
He's down in Mar-a-Lago tonight with a bunch of billionaires, people like John Paulson, who not only wants to cut Social Security, but he's famous for, as a hedge funder, rooting against the American economy, betting against the American economy. So I guess it's no surprise that he's investing in somebody like Donald Trump, who's rooting for the economy to crash. But the whole lot of them is a bunch of billionaire scammers, extremists, and racists who understand that if they fund Trump's legal fees, he's going to cut their taxes while he cuts our Social Security.
So there's a lot there in terms of how he's talking about a lot of these donors, a preview, I think, of what's to come. But that economic messaging from the Biden team, I mean, they have sort of struggled with how to frame that. What's your view of how they're doing it here in this context?
This is the big thing is both candidates in this election are really trying to build themselves as like the middle class, everyday candidate. And so when we see Donald Trump go to these high, top donors, it gives the Biden campaign an opportunity to say, hey, voters, Donald Trump is not actually of the people, right? And on the flip side, when we see Democrats raise a lot of money from high donors versus Donald Trump's sort of small donor amounts, which has historically been higher, Donald Trump is able to say the same thing. So it indicates the importance for each campaign to target this group of voters, and it's potentially going to determine who wins this election, right? Joe Biden is struggling with young voters. He's struggling with minority voters, and so these are the kind of voters that they want to say, hey guys, we're going to help you. The opponent is not going to help you, and so that's sort of what we're seeing.